Well, a question. Your spiritual you isn't confined to the material body, is it? You can't leave what you were never in. I am not in the physical, absent from the body, present with the Lord. When I say I, where will you localize that? Here? There? In this head? In that hand? No, no. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. Therefore, the I by which I know myself is not a local possession, but the presence of God as consciousness. This matters at the first door, for there comes a moment when a question is put to you, and it does not ask for information. It asks for your soul. It asks for your will. It asks you to move the center of your consent from God to a person, a personality, a project, a fear. That is a creepy question. Not because of tone or volume, some of them purr, some of them roar, but because hidden inside is a small throne they would have you set up, and on it not God. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. That is not a pietistic motto. It is cosmic law. Violate 2 times 2 is 4, and the mathematics will correct you. Violate the first commandment, and the law itself will correct you. Not a man, not a church, the law. And the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Love does not enthrone itself in your will. Love does not demand oath. Love never whispers, prove yourself to me, because love is God, and God needs no proof. Any question that asks for your personal consent as if your will were a coin to be spent on another's desire, this is a disguised altar to a second God. Refuse the altar. Refuse the oath. I stand here only as an instrument. God is the actor. God is the doer and the beer. If that is true, and it is, there is nothing for me to defend and nothing for another to control. If I and my Father are one, then your claim upon me is not upon a person, but upon God, and God already gives himself without bargaining. Freely ye have received, freely give. No bargains, no pledges, no secret handshakes in the dark of consciousness. So the hook of discernment is simple and sharp. If anyone seeks power over you, return to one God. Consent to nothing else. Let your yes be yes and your no be no, but let them rise from the altar of oneness, not from fear, not from flattery, not from the hunger to be approved. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Want is the handle by which manipulation turns the screw. Take away the want, and the screw has no thread. We begin then, at the first door, by saying within ourselves, quietly, truthfully, Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. And as that truth settles, the questions that seek to relocate your consent fall away like chaff. In oneness, there is no second God to serve, no second voice to obey, only God, only grace, only the gentle, fearless yes of the Spirit and the clean, unargued, no of obedience. Now, let us look at the carpentry of such questions, for they are built, not born. They do not succeed by strength, but by sleight, by moving the little word I from its true habitation in God to a corner rented by human will. When your I is misplaced, a whisper can push you. When your I is at home, a shout cannot. Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ hath made us free. Liberty is location. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. Therefore, I am not in a cage that can be shaken. I am not in the physical, absent from the body, present with the Lord. 5 signatures announce the builder. First, urgency, now or never. It wants the heat to replace light, a deadline to do the thinking you would not permit in the calm. But spirit is never late. Be still and know that I am God. The second is secrecy, just between us. It hides in the shadow, for in the open it could not breathe. Truth is not afraid of windows. The third is isolation, cut you off. It says, do not consult conscience, community, prayer. It breaks the cords of love and then binds you with a rope of fear. Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, for lawless cords are not bonds of love. The fourth is the false binary, either or. Either you prove loyalty or you betray me. Either you agree or you are unspiritual. God is not split by an ultimatum. Love is whole and undivided. The fifth is localization. Identify your I with a body, a brand, a badge. If it can put you in a box, it can close the lid. But no surgeon has ever yet found any me inside of a body. You cannot be seized if you are not contained. Now place this under the cosmic law. As you sow, so shall ye reap. When one sows control, one reaps fear. Fear of losing control, fear of exposure, fear of the law itself. When you consent to control, you reap bondage. Bondage to the voice you obeyed. Bondage to the circumstance you enthroned. Do not ever tamper with a cosmic law. It is a double-edged sword. There can be no selfish purpose in a law of God. Bend no one. Permit no one to bend you. Let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay, not as defiance, but as obedience to principle. I hope you will never use a question to steer a neighbor's will. I never give human advice. I stand out of the way, that God may be the actor and the doer and the beer. Non-interference is not passivity. It is fidelity to the two commandments. Thou shalt have no other gods. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Love removes the hand from the lever. Love does not need an oath. And if you want a picture, take the traffic law. Safety is in obedience to principle, not to a pushy driver's horn. If the light is red, you stop not because the fellow behind you leans on his horn, not because the fellow beside you waves you through, but because the law is impersonal and the law is for all. It is the same with spiritual law. Hold to the red when spirit says wait. Proceed on green when the inner peace says go. Never let another's horn be your God. Now you see the pattern, and you are free. Withdraw the misplaced I. Return it to where it has always been. I and my Father are one. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. In my oneness with God, I find my completeness, my security, my peace. Then urgency loses its clock, secrecy loses its room, isolation loses its scissors, false binaries lose their halves, and localization finds no box. Only God, only grace, only the quiet yes and the clean no that need no oath. Every manipulative question is a stealth oath. It asks you to swear away your center. Refuse the oath and you keep your soul under God. Let us speak them plainly, not to condemn a person, but to unveil a tactic. We do this in love, under law, with the lamp of the Word and the assurance that thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Who do you answer, to me or them? That is rivalry for your conscience. It is a request to put a second throne beside the one. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Conscience is not a committee. In my oneness with God, I find my directive, and that directive excludes triangulation. When the I abides in God, it answers to God alone. We have one Father, even God. The law violated is the first law. Idolatry is not an altar of stone. It is a divided allegiance. What will you give me to keep you safe? That is the sale of sanctuary. Safety cannot be purchased because safety is an attribute of God, not of barter. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. If safety is sold, fear is the currency and bondage the receipt. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Therefore, safety is bestowed, not brokered. The law violated is sufficiency in grace. To traffic in it is to deny its source. Will you promise to obey me even when you don't understand? That is a mortgage upon conscience. We ought to obey God rather than men. Understanding in spirit is not optional. It is the witness by which obedience is born. Blind vows are not faith. They are abdications. The law violated is the primacy of God-governed conscience. May I enter your mind and pray or manifest for you if you agree? That is a velvet trespass. I have studiously avoided mental and physical contacts. God is the actor, the doer, the beer. Prayer is consent to God, never consent to a person manipulating mind stuff. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. The law violated is non-interference. No mental fingers on another's keys. Don't you trust me more than your own sense? That is an eviction notice served on the still, small voice. My sheep, hear my voice. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart. To outsource discernment is to enthrone a second God. Counsel may confirm, it may never replace. Can you keep this between us? No one else would understand. That is secrecy posing as intimacy. He that doeth truth cometh to the light. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Love builds community, not cul-de-sacs of control. Light loves the open, shame needs the shade. Are you willing to cut off anyone who questions me? That is hostage-taking in the name of truth. By this shall all men know that ye are my disciples, if ye have love one to another. The law of love and cooperation has no use for isolated captives. Truth welcomes testing, for it is not brittle. No, not a bit. You cannot pledge your soul to satisfy another's anxiety. Let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay, spoken from oneness, absent from the body of fear, present with the Lord. Refuse the stealth oath, and you remain where you have always been, under God, within grace, free. Soft voices arrive with candles and cushions, with tea and tender phrases, but the root is unchanged when they require your will. Tone is cosmetics, law is bone. Thou shalt have no other gods before me does not relax, because someone whispers it in a friendly room. Changing the wrapping does not change the altar. A demand for your will, even when it calls itself care, is a denial of God's sufficiency. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. When sufficiency is acknowledged, consent remains with God and cannot be leased to personality. Listen to this one. May I hold space for you if you fully surrender? It sounds like refuge, but the clause is a hook. Space is not space if it charges rent in the coin of your will. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. If liberty is conditional upon a human surrender, it is not spirit. It is a person centralizing themselves under the banner of care. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. Care that requires your vow is not care. Let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay, from God, not from the wish to please a gentle tone. Here is another. You are special, only I can initiate you. Flattery feels like oil on a wound, but specialness is a leash, not love. God is no respecter of persons. All ye are brethren. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. No private key in a private pocket can unlock what God already is as your very life. To elevate one intermediary is to lower the law. Refuse the leash, and you will discover the love that needs no compliment to bind. And the shame trigger, if you were brave, if you were spiritual, you'd say yes. Courage in God often says no. Perfect love casteth out fear. The no that arises from oneness is not defiance, it is obedience to impersonal law. Do not confuse adrenaline with faith. The sheep knows the shepherd's voice and will not follow a stranger, even a kind one. If the peace is not there, do not manufacture it to avoid disappointing a soft demand. Then the off-the-record experiment, let's try something we won't name just between us. Ambiguity is the fog in which consent is stolen. Whatsoever doth make manifest is light. Bring it into the open, name it, measure it against the commandments. If it must hide to proceed, it has already answered for itself. By their fruits ye shall know them. Control is a bitter fruit, however sweet the voice. I am not in the physical, absent from the body, present with the Lord. When identity is non-local, the velvet glove cannot grasp you because there is no handle to seize. As you sow, so shall ye reap. Sow clarity, reap liberty. Sow ambiguity, reap bondage. Therefore, when the soft mask appears, return at once to the one center. I and my Father are one. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. In my oneness with God, I find my completeness, my safety, my peace. From that altar, the simple words form themselves without heat. No, thank you. I consent to God alone. And the soft demand passes like mist before the morning. Consent is not a contract penned in ink. It is spiritual physics. It is the placement of attention, trust, and obedience. Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Where your attention abides, there your self seems to reside. Where your self seems to reside, there your consent silently flows. If your attention is fastened to a personality, your consent will follow like iron to a magnet. If your attention is set on God, your consent cannot be annexed. I am not in the physical, absent from the body, present with the Lord. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. Nothing outside can annex it. No tone can entice it. No pressure can pry it loose. Consent is location of consciousness, abide in God, and no personality can occupy you. Understand this law and you are free. You do not win by arguing with voices. You win by relocating treasure. Withdraw attention from the human claim and rest it in God, not to defeat a person, but to be true to principle. Be still and know that I am God. In stillness, you are not fortifying a wall. You are discovering there is no door for intruders because there is no divided room. The house is God's and the lease is eternal. How is this done? Not by strain, not by drama. I come to the chair without agenda, letting the body drop from thought. There is no occult reason for posture, only comfort that removes intrusion. I wait in receptivity, desireless, listening until finally the click comes. The click. In that instant of conscious union, all that would compel loses its adhesive. Compulsions detach without argument. The question may still hover in the air, but the hook has no place to set. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. I am now consciously unioned with God. All that the Father hath is flowing right up through here as peace, as sufficiency, as direction. Consider mathematics. You violate 2 times 2 is 4, and the principle corrects you, not a policeman, the principle. So with the first commandment, thou shalt have no other gods before me, is not a suggestion. It is law. When you slip consent from God to personality, unrest is the correction. Do not fight the person, heed the correction. Return attention to God, and the equation balances. The peace that passes understanding answers you not as a counter-argument, but as law fulfilled. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Therefore, reframe what the world calls resistance. You are not resisting people, you are resting in principle. Let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay, but let it rise from the Sabbath of inner union, not from personal heat. I and my Father are one. In my oneness with God, I find my completeness, my security, my peace. Thy grace, not my will, thy grace not my will, and in that abiding consent remains where it eternally belongs under God, inviolate, serene. Now the hand must learn what the heart has seen. Saying no in God is not a counterspell. It is simple obedience to impersonal law. Let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay. For whatsoever is more than these cometh of evil. No heat, no duel, no theater, just law, just obedience, just the quiet authority of oneness. I am not in the physical, absent from the body, present with the Lord. When identity is non-local, there is no little handle for quarrel to grip. Therefore, the no that rises from oneness does not fight. It abides. It does not curse. It clarifies. I keep boundary sentences ready, fashioned not as weapons but as liturgy. I seek God alone for guidance. Thank you, no. I don't make private spiritual contracts. I never give human advice. I will not take human control. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. If you will hear it, these are not attitudes, they are altars. To speak them is to step back onto holy ground, where no bargaining can proceed. And if pressure remains, I answer with release, not resistance. I bless you and release you to the law of love. I do not enter projects of domination. The blessing unties the knot. The release removes my hands from the rope. We do not argue. We do not explain ourselves into exhaustion. Explanations are for traffic school, not for spirit. We ought to obey God rather than men. So I turn within, even for a breath, and let the Sabbath rise. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. From that Sabbath, the words come clean, few, unarmed. Thank you. No. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Liberty does not need a footnote. Consider the road. At the intersection, the horn behind you blares, the hand beside you waves you through, but the signal is red. You stop for the principle, not for the pressure. No vendetta with the horn, no sarcasm for the hand. You honor an impersonal law that protects all. It is the same with a bridge. You trust the span because sound engineering stands beneath it, not because a salesman assures you with a smile. If a sign says weight limit, you do not argue with the sign. You obey it and live. Spiritual boundaries are such signs. They are not against anyone. They are for life. And when you have spoken your no, forgive 70 times 7. For them, yes, but also for yourself. Do not let a residue of bitterness glue you back to the scene you just left. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. As you sow, so shall ye reap. If you sow resentment, you reap a second bondage. Bless and release again. If regret arises, why did I waver? Why did I flare? Forgive yourself 70 times 7. You have as much right to forgive yourself as to forgive your neighbor. The law corrects, it does not condemn. Practice it simply. Pressure approaches. You pause, be still, and know that I am God. Wait for the click, however slight, of union. Then speak from there. I seek God alone for guidance. Thank you. No. I don't make private spiritual contracts. I bless you and release you to the law of love. I do not enter projects of domination. And then be silent. Do not chase. Do not fix. Do not defend. I and my Father are one. In my oneness with God, I find my completeness, my security, my peace. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. The law stands, the bridge holds, the signal governs, and without a war, liberty remains. Let me give you witness, not theory. A letter came from a woman who sat in a meeting where the temperature rose, not in the room but in the wills. A question was framed that was not a question. Are you with us or against us? And she felt the pull to explain, to defend, to sign her conscience over in order to keep her seat at the table. She wrote, "In that moment I shut my eyes, not outwardly, but inwardly, and said, 'Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things.' Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things." She did not argue. She did not counter-accuse. She turned attention, withdrew consent from personality, rested until the click came there, a small Sabbath under the noise. When she opened her eyes, the pressure had lost its teeth. The subject shifted of itself. The meeting proceeded on ordinary business. And afterward, a man who had pushed the hardest remarked, "No need to decide that today. The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace." Non-consent plus silence. Grace did what argument could not. Another account came from a young man pressed to secrecy by a kindly voice. "Keep this between us. Others won't understand." He answered with love and light, not heat, "I don't make private spiritual contracts. Let's bring this to the open." He suggested the conversation include those it affected or be put in writing where all concerned could see. No shaming. No performance of righteousness. Just light. He that doeth truth cometh to the light. The result, relationships clarified. Some who needed shadows excused themselves. Those who loved the light deepened in trust. There was no war, only reordering. "By this shall all men know that ye are my disciples, if ye have love one to another." Love does not require a cul-de-sac, it breathes. Understand the practice beneath the stories. I have studiously avoided mental and physical contacts. I did not project. I did not oppose. I rested until the click. I am not in the physical, absent from the body, present with the Lord. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. If help appeared, it was not I, but the Father within that doeth the works. I never give human advice. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. More than once a note reported, "You were there when I was asleep in my bed." No, not a bit. I was not there as a person. Law was there as presence, where consent had been returned to God and grace filled the place where bargaining ended. Here is the pattern you may trust. When the appetite for control finds no consent, no enemy, only law, it starves without a scene, and harmony appears on its own feet. "In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Therefore hold your peace, not as stubbornness, but as obedience. Let your no be clean. Let your silence be Sabbath. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. I and my Father are one, and in that oneness the government is upon his shoulder, and grace accomplishes what no human argument can. When pressure rises, questions heated, tones soft or sharp, do not answer the room, answer God. Sit. A low, comfortable chair will do. It will be a chair low enough that your feet meet the floor without strain. Place the hands relaxed in the lap. Never brace the arms on the chair. Keep the shoulders loose. Let the jaw unhook. Close the eyes. There is no occult reason for any of this, only physical comfort that removes the body from thought. In this position, I am virtually unaware of having a body. I am not in the physical, absent from the body, present with the Lord. Now remove the body from thought. Let the breath find its own rhythm. Do not regulate it. Do not count it. Regard the body as you would a good chair, useful, not ultimate. Where am I, if not in a body? In God. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. Rest there. No striving, no spiritual athleticism, Be still and know that I am God. Desirelessness must be established, or you will pray to a second God with a shopping list. So say it within truthfully, I want nothing from them. I want nothing from the circumstance. And I want nothing from you, Father, but thyself. Not a thing, not a sign, not a victory, only thee. There can be no selfish purpose in a cosmic law. Wait without reaching, wait without bargaining. Now, the password, not to persuade God, but to quiet the mind's appetite. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Slowly. Again, thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. And again, letting each word settle like rain on dry ground. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. As the mind softens, the hooks of compulsion lose their purchase. When the waters are still, a firm identity. I and my Father are one. Say it once. Say it as fact, not as hope. Then wait in receptivity. Wait for the click. Do not hurry. Do not use will. Will is a poor mechanic in a temple built without hands. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. I wait until finally, sometimes quickly, sometimes not, the click comes, a quiet inner assent, a lift, a simplicity. This is the rule. If the click comes, act in quiet clarity. The sentence will be given, the step will be plain, it will require no theater. Let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay. If the click does not come, do nothing. Silence is your no. The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. Do not defend, do not explain. Hold your peace. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Close the moment rightly, whether you speak or keep silence. Thank you, Father. I release this person and this hour to thy law. Cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. Consent returns to God. Governance returns to grace. The soul stands where it has always stood, under one God, unbargained, free. Ethics are not private hobbies. They are communal weather. If one window is open to the storm of control, the whole house feels the draft. Therefore, in families and in teams, we bring our life into the light. No secret oaths, no spiritual leverage. Guidance is shared light, not private strings. He that doeth truth cometh to the light. If a request must be hidden from the family conscience, it is already judged by its need for shadow. Parents, partners, elders, love does not say, prove your loyalty by silence. Love says, let us pray, let us let us wait until peace speaks. A threefold cord is not quickly broken. Peace that is of God can withstand a kitchen table and a calendar. It does not need a cul-de-sac. I never give human advice. I do not take human control. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. We are merely instruments, together, under one law. In business, principle, not personality, governs trust. Daylight is the contract. Divers weights and divers measures are an abomination because they hide advantage in fog. So we write terms that a plain worker can read. No fear clauses masked as loyalty sign here, or lose your future. Swear to us more than to your conscience. Let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay. When the bridge is built to code, anyone can cross. When the ledger is clean, anyone can audit. The market will honor the firm that stands under impersonal principle as surely as a building stands when it rests on bedrock. As you sow, so shall ye reap. Sow pressure, reap suspicion. Sow transparency, reap trust that outlasts a sales quarter. In spiritual spaces, the warning is double. Thou shalt have no other gods, even benevolent ones. Leaders are instruments, not owners. Feed my sheep, not brand my sheep. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Any teacher who requires vows to themselves, any circle that centralizes a personality as the gate of God, has already betrayed the altar. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. Therefore, the gifts of spirit are commonwealth, not private property. I am not in the physical. Absent from the body, present with the Lord. Authority is presence, not pressure. Do not tamper with cosmic law in the name of efficiency. Use pressure and it returns to you with compound interest. Withhold light and you will walk in your own shadow. But align with law and cooperation multiplies of itself. Consider the master with the loaves. No oath, no push, only order. Make the men sit down. And sufficiency appeared until they did all eat, and were filled, and fragments remained. That is the oneness economy. When I want nothing you have, and you want nothing I have. We discover the law of love, of sufficiency. Competition cools, and contribution warms the room. Obedience to one law protects communities from cultic capture and nurtures cooperation. It is not austere, it is generous. It removes the hook so hands are free to build. Let it be our daily practice in kitchen, boardroom, and sanctuary. I and my Father are one. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. From that oneness we speak few words, we keep clean books, we share light, and grace governs the rest. Beloved, let us end where we began. Consent belongs to God. Recognize the pattern that tries to relocate it, no matter how soft the tone or urgent the plea. Refuse the stealth oath without heat, without war. Return to one God. If anyone seeks power over you, return to one God. Consent to nothing else. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. It is not a slogan. It is law. I am not in the physical. Absent from the body, present with the Lord. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. And there, in that oneness, no personality can annex what God governs. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Let your communication be. Yea, yea, nay, nay. Let your heart be, Father, thy will be done. Hear this as identity, not ambition. In my oneness with God, I find my completeness. In my oneness with God, I find my security. In my oneness with God, I find my peace. In my oneness with God, I find my joy. In my oneness with God, I find my fulfillment. Not achieved, not traded, not proven, found. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. When sufficiency is known as grace, questions that bargain for your will fall to the ground like dull arrows. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. I and my Father are one. Now we will keep 2 minutes of shared silence. No words, no projects, only presence. Be still and know that I am God. Let the body fall from thought. Want nothing, ask nothing. Seek only God as God. If a thought arises, let it pass like a small boat across a deep lake. If a need suggests itself, place it on the shore and leave it there. We do not manipulate, we do not defend, we rest, wait for the click, perhaps now, perhaps later. Trust the law that in quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. We keep the silence together. Thank you, Father. We rise without leaving the Sabbath. We step back into kitchens and offices and streets, but we do not step out of you. If a voice and a vow meet us at a door, we know our practice. Recognize the pattern, refuse the oath, return to one God, ask nothing of another's will, require nothing of another's conscience, walk gently, leave every soul free. that God may be all in all. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. I and my Father are one, and in that oneness we go our way, no hooks in our hands, no fear in our speech, no bargains on our lips. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. Consent to God alone, and grace will govern the rest. And I thank you.